growing up, I really didn't have a voice, and I think being an only child, a lot of focus on me, and both my parents were pretty strong people. And, like there was no talking back, and I just felt silenced in different ways. But I think as I got older, it was important for me to have a voice. And so that voice manifested in probably what, you're referring to as willing to not take any crap or, advocate for myself. So it's not, I want to fight spirit. It's more of fair and equity type of spirit. Like you can't just walk over me and me not say anything, and I'm going to have something to say if I feel there's been some type of disservice or offense, that has taken place.
Hey, everyone. Let's start healing. I'm Adrianne Murchison, and welcome to the 113th episode of Let's Start Healing. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. A lot of people at a distance will think of me and know me as someone who likes to be very social. I have a lot of friends and I'm grateful for that. And I do enjoy really being in a good vibe with people and being social. But another side of me is also a loner. And I definitely like my downtime and my space. And I think that was cultivated as I was growing up because I didn't have as many friends as I wanted to have. And a lot of people don't know that. My guest today, she definitely is aware of that I felt kind of like an oddball growing up. And I had quite a bit of lonely times, also in my adulthood, early adulthood. And I still have my moments of being lonely. But as far as friends go, I just didn't have a lot of friends growing up. And especially when I got to college, I had a really good close friend who's my college roommate, and we are still good friends today. And early adulthood, I went through a lot of loneliness when I left college. And I remember feeling some kind of shame around not having friends, or if I felt someone didn't want to be my friend. And I didn't really talk about that much. And I remember being with my mom one time, and I was at this point, I was probably in my late 30s. And I was back here in Atlanta, and my mom was living in this independent retirement building for seniors. And one Thanksgiving, I went and picked her up. We were going to somewhere for Thanksgiving dinner. And we were standing at the elevator, and she is someone who always had a lot of friends. People just would gravitate to her personality. And we were standing at the elevator about to go down to the car, and she just was sad. And I said, "What's the matter?" And she had this friend who looked like she could be Red Fox's twin sister. I mean, this woman looked just like Red Fox. She, I wish that I could remember her name, but she looked just like Red Fox. And Red Fox, if you don't know, late actor, comedian, legend, known for Sanford and Son and his comedy. So anyway, my mom was upset, she said, because the friendship with this friend was becoming frayed, and this friend was becoming distant and didn't seem to want to be as close as they were. And my mom's feelings were just really hurt, and she was really expressing how she felt. And as I was listening and really feeling what she was telling me, I also really admired that she could share that with me. I mean, we were very close and she could tell me anything, I could tell her anything. But if I was in that position because of my own personal insecurities, would have not been comfortable, I don't think, at that time, really expressing, this person doesn't want to be friends with me. And that really hurts my feelings. And I don't understand. And, she was, just expressing. And I just really admired that and was aware, as I say, of my insecurities. And I am in another place now. And now, if somebody doesn't want to be my friend, I have no problem expressing that and saying, she didn't want to be my friend anymore. I don't know why, but so I've grown and I've evolved. My guest today is one of my oldest friends and my best friend in life, Tonya. We grew up together. We've known each other since we were 9 and 10 years old, and she knows all of this that I'm sharing because I would share this with her as we were growing up, and she is a real joy in my life. She will share how we have lived more apart than we have lived together in the same city, but we have remained like sisters. So Tonya lives in Rochester, New York. I grew up in Buffalo. We both grew up in Buffalo, New York. She lives in Rochester, and she and her daughter, she has 3 grown daughters. Her youngest is 21. Her name is Aaliyah. And she and Aaliyah drove here to Atlanta to visit me a few weeks ago. And I just was so heartened by it because it was an 18-hour drive. That's because she has an electric vehicle and she would have to stop and recharge. It probably should have taken about 15 hours to get here, but they drove here 18 hours, and the will and commitment to do that, to see moi, really touched my heart. So while she was here, I had to get her on the podcast. You're really going to enjoy her. Let's see, is there anything else I want to share about Tonya? Gosh, well, she was on episode 55 of Let's Start Healing. And we really took a deep dive into our friendship in that conversation and shared a lot about our dads and how our dads impacted us. We met through our fathers, who were both policemen in Buffalo, and they introduced us, and we became lifelong friends. So our dads had they were not perfect men, although we loved them so much. We both grew up in intact families with both of our parents, but that doesn't mean that, of course, our parents did not have issues between themselves. So, as I said, we talked about in that conversation how that impacted us. Tonya was also on episode 59, which was a conversation I had with 3 other friends. And we discussed on that episode the film Malcolm and Marie, the Netflix film Malcolm and Marie, which was about a relationship. And yikes, that was a really good conversation. So please go back and check out those episodes if you haven't already. Let's meet Tonya. Let's get started, and let's start healing. Welcome, Tonya.
Thank you.
So this might be maybe the 3rd time here.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and the 3rd time on the podcast, but the 1st time we've recorded in person.
Oh, that's right. It was via Zoom. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So. Okay.
They're going to be sick of us.
No, they don't get us enough.
Okay.
They don't get us enough. And I'll probably mention this in the intro, but I just want to say that, you drove here from Rochester, you and Aaliyah, who is right here with us, and maybe we'll get on the mic,
Maybe.
So,
Yes.
First of all, this is about friendship and our friendship. And I mean, wow, you drove here
Yes.
from, and I'm going to tell you something. Well, now I might drive to Buffalo or Rochester, but I don't know.
Yeah, if you're not by yourself.
That's not something that I would do. I mean, I would come see you, but let me just get on the road. Wow. Well, maybe break it up. But the fact that you did that and you did it straight through, what made you want to do that? I love it. I love you. I felt love. I'm like, man, you don't do this for somebody you don't love.
True that. Well, I know that, it's with the girls being younger, it was just easier sometimes for you to come see me. And then, I always had the desire to come see you, but, I don't like to fly.
That's true.
And I figure, okay, now I have an electric car, why don't I go see her? And then I asked Aaliyah if she wanted to join me, and she graciously agreed to come. So why not?
I love it. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
But I won't be visiting anybody else on the road. Yeah.
Wow. So you know that I would love somehow to do a documentary on our friendship, and I've been trying to figure out what that would look like and how we would approach that because we come from interesting dynamics and I might want to share more than you might want to share, and I just don't know what that would look like. But this is a start to talk about our friendship, which we actually did talk a lot about our dads.
Yes, we did
in the past, and our moms. And so I want to talk about our actual friendship and what does friendship mean to you, first of all? Because you have a lot of friends and I have a lot of friends. What does friendship mean to you?
I think, maybe when I was younger, friendship might have had a somewhat of a different meaning, not vastly different from where I am now, but I don't think that maybe I appreciated what friendship stood for until I got older. And I think when I got older, then, I really realized like who your friends are and really only wanting those friends, those real friends in my circle. And I think when we were younger, I had maybe a lot of so-called friends, but not friends that were lasting. Because I think real friends are lasting. And I know some relationships have seasons, but real friends, I feel that relationship lasts over time. So I would say someone that, loves you, would put down whatever they're doing to assist you, that someone who is honest with you, and, someone that has your back, I guess, for lack of a better word, someone that is there to be by your side if needed, just a genuine relationship.
Yeah.
Someone you can count on, someone that you could talk to, someone you can lean on.
Right.
And I think that pretty much sums it up.
Right. When we were growing up, you had so many friends. You would make friends fast. Remember, like you might meet, remember that couple, Della and Danny?
Yeah.
You were living in an apartment complex and they lived in nearby, and she just seemed gorgeous. And we used to just like poke at Danny. He was an attractive guy. They were a great couple.
Yeah, I think they were Italian.
I think they were too. I didn't know what they were then. I just knew they were just a lovely couple. But they loved you. You loved them. I was really sad when they moved away. But they were like an example of how you would adopt people, or get adopted by other people so easily. And I just didn't feel like people found me the way that, they didn't see in me what they saw in you, And so I always wanted a lot of friends, and I feel like I have a lot of friends now. And I think that it wasn't anything I tried with, but I see friends as people who can let me be me. And that's really important. And they accept me in my bad, in my bad times, or, if I snap one day, at them, if I bark at somebody, like, stop, or you're getting on my nerves, or I don't literally say that, but if they feel that, I'm agitated about something, it's not the end of the world, and we accept each other, and I really appreciate that, but I'm a loner at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that, when you say, do you remember so-and-so, or you made friends so quickly, I think I remember because you would point it out to me.
You were like,
something that I wasn't really conscious of.
Is it like this for everyone? And remember,
but I get it.
Do like the gymnastics and stuff for them. Want to see my back flip?
Yeah, I do feel like the younger version of myself was very outgoing and, I think easy to make friends. And I feel like, I don't know, with you, I view you like as a flower. And I do feel like at that time, you saw it in me, but you didn't see it in yourself. And, we really weren't that different. I feel like the school you went to was a little different than what I went to. I felt like maybe, at home you were, I don't know what's the word, but
more sheltered, more protected.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was definitely protected.
But your parents were more flexible.
I had a little bit more freedom.
Yeah.
And, more freedom, I think, to be myself. And that's really the only difference.
Yeah. So we met on a school bus. Well, we met at a school bus stop through our dads.
Did we? I thought we met when my dad brought me over to your house.
And I think we had this conversation before.
Did?
And I think we have a different recollection. So you came to my house before that first day of
my
school?
dad brought me over.
Okay.
This was the introduction.
I blanked that out.
I totally remember it too. Like, I don't remember reactions or anything, but I remember like coming through your front door with my dad, and your dad was there, and then your dad said something to me about, I don't know, when I'm gonna grow taller. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I definitely remember that introduction.
Oh, people are always, not always, but occasionally will tell me interesting things my father would say.
Yeah.
In other words, you were short.
At that time, apparently. But like my mom was not there. And I think your mom was there. I just don't remember seeing her a lot during that time, during the introduction. But well, and that makes sense because the dads know each other.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what I'm trying to get to is, I mean, I was going to like you. I felt like people just didn't like me. I mean, I say that, but then I have like friends from Winslow, the street I lived on before we moved to the suburbs. And before I met you, there are still friends. But I don't know. I just felt like people didn't take to me. And so what do you think? I know what I saw in you, I mean, especially as we got to be more and more friends. I mean, we used to stay up all night talking. And, the one thing that I not get out of you, but I feel like you instilled in me, like just organically, like through God's grace, is laughter and a sense of humor. Because we used to just like, oh my God, laugh until our stomach hurt.
Over nothing.
Yes. Just looking at somebody. We look at somebody.
Making up words.
And then we look at
Hakuna Matata. Yeah, we just make up words. Yeah.
What do you think it is about us?
It's funny. I had just had this thought about, how you feel like people didn't take to you. And I feel like when I look back on our different ages, I think so many different things, and this is probably way too deep for this conversation, but I think of like so many different things that I think affected that. Like, for example, I think colorism was a factor in that with, people, I think hating on you, for a better word, and just being
you mean hating on both of us?
No, hating on you, being light skinned, green eyes. I think that, I'll just say women particularly, and I just think that played into it. I do. You think about, especially when we were growing up, I didn't know anybody else with green eyes other than your dad. You know what I'm saying?
You're saying you think that played into what?
About not you being accepted maybe as easily.
Oh.
But anywho, as far as like our friendship being lasting, is that the question? I think it's like any relationship that you value, that's important to you, that's meaningful in your life, you're going to put the work in to make it last, right? It can't be one-sided. It can't be you calling me all the time and me never calling you, me never checking on you, or vice versa. And I think that we've always made it a point, and for most of our life, we didn't live together. We, yes, had, moments where we lived together, but we've been separated, for longer than we were together. And we've always made it a point to stay in touch. As a matter of fact, I would laugh at people like, oh, you talked to Adrianne? Yeah, I still talk to Adrianne. Just talked to her yesterday. So anything worth having in your life, you're going to put the work into it to grow it, to maintain it. If it's important to you, you're going to work at it. Right. And to me, God is in everything. And for him to place you in my life, I value that. So obviously, I don't want to lose that. And if I did, it would be a big void, in my life. Mm-hmm. So, and it's not intention, like I consciously am saying, oh, I got to call Adrianne, make sure I maintain it. It's organic. It's authentic.
Right.
It's, something I want to do. If I don't hear from you, I know, I got to check in, like something's happening. We both get busy. Mm-hmm. But now we can text, even if, just during the day, touch base.
Yeah, it's interesting because we never went to school together. We rode a school bus that would drop people off at different schools. Mm-hmm. So we didn't go to grade school, elementary, middle school, high school, or anything like that. Then I went away to college. You went to college. And I never came. Well, we did live in New York together for a time. Mm-hmm. And how many years was that we lived in New York together? Mm-hmm. So maybe
remember more things than I do. So I don't know.
Well, so it had to be just 2 years because
yeah,
because you got married, so we did have that.
I think unconsciously, to me, it was comforting to have someone else of color as a friend. And I'm trying to think at that time, other than you, who of color was my friend?
You mean in high school?
Or before, like when we met when we were younger. I can't think, right? I went to a private school. You went to a private school.
Right.
Certainly no one in my school. I mean, I think we had one, and then later we had two other girls of color, but.
Maybe at gymnastics?
No,
maybe?
Definitely not at gymnastics. Mm-hmm. They were all Caucasian. Yeah. So the spaces I was in were mostly Caucasian people. Mm-hmm. And I think when you came, it's just, oh, there's someone that looks like me,
Yeah.
We can talk about hair. We can talk, commonality.
And I mean, I felt like that too because I was going to a white school, and same with, I was switching schools because we moved. So it was the same thing. But I remember in high school, I thought we might, because you had like some good friends and I didn't necessarily have good friends, and I thought we might like split then, and we didn't. And then I remember going when I was a freshman in college, and I was so caught up in when I first got there, and I didn't call home that much at one time, and you called me and you were like, yeah, your mom said she hasn't heard from you, and like nobody's heard from you. And do you remember that?
I do not.
I mean, I literally almost forgot my mom's birthday.
Wow.
When I was a freshman.
That's big for you.
It was huge for me.
Wow.
It's huge for me. Like I just lost track of the dates, like it was, that far in September. And I think maybe I talked to her the day before and she mentioned her birthday and I went along with it. But both of you had like called me out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think when I think of you going away to school, I mean, I had a boyfriend, so I didn't want to go away. That's a whole nother story. But I don't know. It never crossed my mind that like we wouldn't be friends because you were going away. I mean, like, I guess she's coming back.
Well, I knew we would be friends, but I didn't know if we might just drift,
Well, that's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't be friends.
That doesn't mean we're not friends. Well, no. Okay. So who was the boyfriend? Because, I mean, there were a few.
When you went away to college?
Yeah, when you were a senior in high school. Was that James or?
Well, I'm thinking when you went away to college, I was a freshman and I had already. I'm a year ahead.
Oh
so,
yeah.
It would be Frankie.
Oh right.
Yep.
No, I was a senior in high school. You were a freshman in college.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Is that something you want to talk about, or you don't want to talk about it? No. Okay. We don't have to talk about it. Yeah. So, wow, Tonya. I told you she wasn't transparent.
I am, but it's very sad, and I don't want to cry.
Yeah.
It's very painful.
It is. Does Aaliyah know? Do they know?
I think you mentioned him.
Mm-hmm. So at some point, I get married, start having kids, and did you think that in a couple years I'm gonna have some kids? Like, was that the plan? I'm gonna have some kids.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about getting married. I'm just like, I'm gonna have some kids, or that was the plan.
Yeah. I mean, that I had always wanted to get married. And, there were people that I wanted to marry. And then I thought I was going to have kids regardless.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah. And then,
I think, because before Sam and I even got engaged, my mother and grandmother were like, well, you don't have to be married to have a kid. Like, they were ready. So I knew I was going to, either way, I was going to have a kid, but it was going to be surrogate or something was going to happen. Yeah. So. Yeah.
It wasn't until my 30s, or maybe I might have been 40, that it was when I was seeing Ken, whatever age I was, that I realized that a relationship was actually the number one thing that I wanted, even more than kids. Like, as much as I wanted kids, I realized that what I really, really wanted was a committed relationship. But I haven't had those either for, extended period of time, or not in the way that I want them to look like.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything that you would change, like, with any of those relationships?
I think it was just, the only thing I would change is there was one person I'm thinking of in particular, which I wish I had given that a shot. Like, I met this guy on the train, actually, when I was going to New York to your engagement party. And we were sitting next to each other, or maybe I was coming back home. I might have been coming back home, and we were sitting next to each other, and, we talked and we exchanged numbers, and we started seeing each other, and he was taking it really slow, and I didn't understand. like, he didn't kiss me. I was like, why haven't you kissed me? I was just being like ridiculous. He was going so slow. And then, as much as I say that, I'm a person that I like my space. And if you come on too strong, I'm like, wait, hold up. I don't understand,
Yep.
And so he would just pop up. I had a part-time job. I worked my full-time job, and then I had a part-time job where I was doing some telemarketing, in the evening. And I remember one time he popped up at my job, and I'm like, what? It would just like unnerve me. But it wasn't him, it was me. So I just wish, I ended up just like cutting things off with him. And he worked at a sporting goods store that was down the street from here. And I knew he was there for a while, and by the time I decided I was going to go and say hi and try to reconnect, he was gone. But he was there for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's like one of my regrets. But the other people, I don't regret them. I just wish I knew now what I knew then about myself. It took me well into adulthood to grow into myself, to grow into me. So I tolerated so many things that I wouldn't tolerate now. And I was getting involved with the same type of man all over and over and over again. So I was just repeating a pattern.
So knowing that, what words of advice would you give to Aaliyah? Yes.
I would say know yourself, which I feel like you do. And but it's a process. It's definitely a process. If we're lucky, we'll continue to know learn more and more about ourselves until the day we leave this earth at a ripe old age. But I would say know yourself and trust yourself. And if something doesn't feel right, it could just be a conversation. It doesn't have to be anything abusive or, anything like that. It could just be, this doesn't sit right with me. Just honor yourself. I'm still doing that now. I will just be, I don't feel good about this. I don't, and I'll
trust your instincts.
Trust my instincts. acknowledge if somebody has said something that the conversation is over, but it still bothers me, acknowledge that bothers me and why. But my spirituality, my relationship with God has really played a big role in me growing into me. So I try to be in a place of forgiveness. My boss said something to me. We had a conversation, and he caught me at a weak moment. This particular day was just a tough day. And, he just said something to me, and it's hard for me to, I will hold it against him. He'll be nice, sometimes. And I'll be like to myself, don't be nice to me.
Not in that forgiveness space.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, don't be nice to me. I'm not trying to, accept your niceness, but then I'll try to go into a higher place in myself, but I will acknowledge, then I'll say, am I willing to forgive this? Am I willing? And I'll just say, well, I'm willing. Maybe I'm not there now, but I'll just try to honor how I'm feeling. And so the advice I can give is honor you, period. Number one, above all. And then that way you'll do what's best for yourself.
Yeah, I would say, and I think particularly in the mother-daughter relationship, sometimes they don't want to hear what you have to say, or they hear, but they're not really listening. And I think moms and people you trust, they see things and maybe the person you're interested in that you don't see. And, we're mature, so we've had our experiences with relationships and men, and maybe just, listen to what advice people have, and you're smart enough to make your own decisions, but just listen to what other people are saying, the people that you trust, people that have your best interests in mind. Because I knew her first boyfriend was not the one.
Yeah. But, when I was 16, I think I was 16. Maybe I was 15 when through you I met Tonya and Terry and Wesley and that whole crew. And there was this one guy that I liked, Thomas. I don't know if you remember him.
I remember the name.
And we started talking on the phone a little bit, and then he seemed to really like me. And then do you remember there was a girl, Sandra? I don't remember how she pronounced her name. I think it might have been Sandra. And she was real pretty, model-like, real pretty girl. And they got together. And I was so upset. This was in a matter of 3 weeks, from the time I met him. Yeah. And I was so upset. And my mom was like, why are you so upset? And I told her what was up. And she said, and he was just talking to me about, something that related to him liking me, right? And so now he's with this person, And so my mom said, Adrianne, she said, a man is never going to tell you that it's over, goodbye. That's what she told me.
Really?
She said, I said, I don't believe that. She says, he's not going to say, this is not working out. It's over, goodbye. And I have found that maybe once in my life that happened,
I try to say goodbye first. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that, and I think I can't really think of any times like that, because I try to say goodbye first.
Like, you're not kidding.
I don't ghost. I will say, it's a wrap.
Yeah, me too.
Say something.
Me too.
You want closure.
That's happened to me. I don't like to be ghosted. Yeah. So I definitely don't try to do that to anybody.
Yeah.
But, wow.
That's funny.
But what I wanted to say was, one of the regrets, this is what I wanted you to hear, is that I've told you this before, that I don't have many regrets. I was telling my nephew Russell this the other day, because his wife is pregnant, so they're going to have another child. And when their son was born, I could have gone. I was on vacation. I had the means to get there, But I thought, oh, I'll go in February when his birthday is, when my nephew's birthday is. I'll go then. And so the day he was born, I'm talking to them on the phone off and on, and I'm getting, photos and video. And I would just felt like I was supposed to be there. And, that is a regret of mine, not being there when he was born. So I told them, that I do plan to be there when their daughter is born. But the other regret I have is, it's not a regret because I don't know what I could have done about it, but just missing out on your 3 girls, just being a part of their lives. Like they know how close we are, but, they don't have the experience of me in their life as if I was your sister and, I'm their aunt, and just that daily interaction. And that's like not anything you can get back. The time has passed.
Right.
So.
I definitely feel that too. Not like as a regret, but just, it would have been nice. I think about, if Adrianne was here, I'd be like, can I have some sugar? Like, can I come by and get some milk? Like just having, I don't have any sisters or brothers, and not really having, family where we live. So even when, my mom was well and my dad was here, they were able to come up, and my grandma, but, it's not the same as like having somebody like your best friend or your sister, like right there, it's not the same. You can go to Asia's piano recital, or, see Aaliyah's tennis match, or Alexa's track meet, or, so that's tough, like not having my person there. And really Sam's family not there either. So it's just us, so
yeah. Or Asia's engagement, or even earlier today, was it you or did somebody else say, oh, you're going to get to see Aaliyah play tennis? And I had to stop for a second because I think I did see you play tennis when I was there for Christmas that time. I did get to see her play tennis.
You did?
Yeah, when I was there for between Christmas and New Year's. And you had a New Year's Eve party. This would have been like 2015. I think I saw her play then.
Inside? It would have to be inside.
Yeah, it was inside. I
Maybe.
believe. Okay. Hopefully I'm not lying. In my mind.
You remember that, Lee?
In my mind, I feel like I saw her play tennis one time, and then the others was just through video you sent me.
Well, you did try. You came to Hilton Head.
Well, that's true. She didn't show up.
Not her fault, though.
It wasn't her fault. It wasn't her fault.
Yeah.
The tournament got canceled. So what I get out of you, because we're so different, we're not so different. I keep saying that. But what I get out of you, one is, like I mentioned, just the joy of laughter that carries into every single aspect of my life. Like I crack myself up.
That's a good thing. Okay.
And I don't know if that would have been in me. Like, let's say I was born that way, but you brought that alive in me. So that's what I get from you. But I also get your strength because, you were an only child, and, you have this sense of, I think, strength and resilience within yourself, and a sense of confidence. And not that we don't, we all have like our doubts and stuff like that, but you have this no nonsense, don't play with me, don't F with me way about you if it needs to be there. If it's called for.
They don't need any comments from the peanut gallery.
If it's called for, what? All right, I'm taking my earrings off and my one shoe off.
She's exaggerating.
And I'm not exaggerating.
Okay.
I am not.
Take my earrings off and my shoes off.
I said your one shoe just to
one shoe?
just to refer to the riverfront.
Okay, I was gonna say like Black woman. Okay.
So I get that from you. Sometimes if I'm doubting myself, I will conjure you up in my spirit.
Okay.
Or I'll hear you in my mind. What? No. No.
I think that we're similar in that way, because I feel like growing up, I really didn't have a voice, and I think being an only child, a lot of focus on me, and both my parents were pretty strong people. And, like there was no talking back, and I just felt silenced in different ways. But I think as I got older, it was important for me to have a voice. And so that voice manifested in probably what, you're referring to as willing to not take any crap or, advocate for myself. So it's not I want to fight spirit. It's more of fair and equity type of spirit. Like you can't just walk over me and me not say anything, and I'm going to have something to say if I feel there's been some type of disservice or offense, that has taken place. So it's more that type of spirit. I don't know, which maybe does come off as, I don't know. Maybe I'll ask Aaliyah.
It's
how it comes off.
Aaliyah, can you get on the microphone? I don't know what she did. She put the mic down. So wait. Well, first of all, I have to raise it up here.
But maybe, what I said will give her some context of where I'm coming from. Like if I had to do it over again, I probably would do things a little differently with them, because I know like there may be times where they didn't tell me things because they know I'm going to go in guns a-blazing. But that was just, don't mess with my kid.
Yeah.
Thing,
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Do you feel like I come off as I'm ready to take my earrings off
and talk into the mic?
Yeah. So what I was saying with what was it?
At the pickleball
parking lot. No.
Wait, at the parking lot.
Well, no, pickleball. I did think you would go off on them.
No,
it scares me sometimes. It scares me, but no.
What do you think I would do? I'm gonna go off like what? No. Get off the court.
They play pickleball.
We're playing right now.
These are athletes at the table, and so they're both pickleball players. And Tonya grew up running track, by the way, and Aaliyah is a tennis player. She's been playing since she was a child. She's played through college and more. Her summer job is in a tennis club. So they went to play pickleball today, and Tonya had to, put on her cape.
I was just addressing proper pickleball protocol. That's all I was doing.
To the other people on the court who was trying to have.
Aggressive.
Yeah, thank you.
I just thought you might have. I was worried you were going to come off aggressive. No, but it's jokes. No, you're never like, I never think you're going to fight someone.
Yeah.
Never once did I ever think you were going to fight someone.
Yeah, these are jokes, folks.
Okay, thank you.
Physically. Verbally, maybe, yeah. Not physically, but no, it's good. I think it's good for me. I'm not too outspoken. I'm not too... I don't know. I feel like I've always struggled with standing up for myself. Most recently with the wage thing. I was about to, at my job.
It's a good story.
It was a whole thing where it was a new hire and they were making $15 an hour. And then I'm like, wait, I make $15 an hour. And I've been here 2.5, almost 3 years.
51.5 or 50?
Well, 15. Yeah, this is like my first real job. I'm like, wait a second. I thought I got a pay raise, but apparently they were just raising it to what everyone makes. I'm like, oh, no way. And so I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking about what do I do for the club? And then I'm like, underselling myself. I'm like, you know what? No, you're just a minimum wage worker. It's like, just let it go. It doesn't matter. But I'm like, no, it does. I think of mom. I'm like, don't let yourself do that. Come on. Come on. So I came home, talking with you. I was like, does it even matter? I don't know. But she said she'd help me write my letter to management to ask for a wage increase. And they went above and beyond. They were like, they really loved my email. They were they totally agreed. They were beyond supportive. They apologized. My one manager was like, I honestly thought you were making more than that. So they both raised my pay to what all the veterans of the club have been making, as well as, this was the end of summer. This was actually recently. So they gave me, I forgot the word for it.
Oh,
they gave me a bonus as if I was making
retroactive.
Yeah, as if I was making that pay rate the whole summer. So they gave me a bonus in my check. I was like, oh my goodness. Imagine I just let this go. So I think moments like that, it's like, it's nice to have you advocate for me, for my sisters. I know there's times in tennis where I'm sure, in the moment, I'm like, oh my goodness, mom. But looking back, it's like, no, someone needed to say something, and I'm glad she said something. Just things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of you because I do see where you're growing, because it was speaking in the context of tennis, when she's younger and matches and, some of the other players there, they'll like either take advantage or, because she's more quiet and reserved and like,
and
no,
they
you
will
go
do
tell
that.
her,
Yes.
But then there's a balance, because then I have to realize she's not me, but how do I help her to find her voice,
Exactly.
and however she wants to exhibit that. But I want her to feel empowered to have a voice,
Right.
and you're not always going to get the answer you want, but at least you have said your piece. You have spoken what you want,
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you tried.
Yeah.
And it's a process.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process, and it'll become more and more. And you were just talking about yourself, and it's been a process for me. I mean, a part of it for me, having my voice, is life, but it's also age. Like now, I feel like I have a voice, and I don't have anything to lose. I don't have anything to lose, and I don't want to leave this earth and not have said how I feel and do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm proud of you too, because I think I referenced earlier, like, you remind me of a flower, because throughout the years, many times you brought up the fact that, like, you didn't have friends. And there was a period of time where you didn't really have a girl circle. And I always wanted that for you, because I wasn't close to you, and we didn't like live in the same city. And then I saw how, you really grew and you started forming your own circle. And it's like, I just always wanted you to have like a support system near you, because I wasn't near you.
Yeah.
And I think, part of that is just you opening yourself up. And I think in the past, maybe you were a little guarded with people for different reasons. And, now you have it. And they're wonderful people. You have some great people.
Yeah.
Because you also have some people I was like, girl,
That's true.
But you have a forgiving spirit.
Yeah.
And where I'm like, no, I can't. They got to go. Because that goes back to friendship. And again, you have the forgiving spirit. But I feel like as a friend, there's just some things you don't do to people.
Right. Right.
And I've seen some things done to you where I feel like, I don't see how you're still friends with that person. But,
wow,
you're at a higher level to God.
So, so that's what I was going to ask you. So, okay, so I'm telling you what you get from me. Is that what I get from you? Is that what you get from me? Do I help you to be more forgiving? I don't know about that.
You help me to see how to be more forgiving.
You choose your words very wisely.
Yes.
That's the way. Maybe one day.
I'll aspire to that.
What an example.
Yes. No, what I get from you is, though, no, that's true. That's truth. I do see that in you. And I think there are times when I can draw on that, but then there are times where I just cannot. I just, for whatever reason, I need to move on. But I think, talking about my strength, but you're really the strong one. I feel like I'm definitely blessed. I've had a lot in my life. I really haven't had to want for much. I really haven't had to struggle for much. And you've been through a lot. And, oh God, I don't want to get emotional, but I'm so proud. Like, I'm just so proud of like you being able to persevere in spite of all the obstacles. You've had people pass away. You've had people that you relied on that aren't here anymore. I think I've seen some friends not in your life anymore. I know that there have been, times where it's been hard financially. I've always had somebody to go to if I've had any problems financially. It could be my mother, it could be my father, it could be my grandmother, it could be my husband. There's always somebody there. And I've hadn't had to really worry. And I know that, you have. It's not easy out in these streets. And yet you've managed to do very well. I don't think you give yourself enough credit. You really have. You work so hard. And I don't know. Well, I do know. Everybody doesn't see it, but I do see it. I recognize it. I acknowledge it. Your work is important to you. And although others may not see it, it is valuable. And I know that your blessing is still around the corner. And, continue to lean in on your faith. And, you will continue to prosper.
This is why you need a pulpit.
But yeah, you're a blessing, and I don't even think you see it. Even Stephanie, she just had wonderful things to say about you, and it's nice to see other people see what I've always had in my life with you, and have seen you grow over the years, and it was just nice to see somebody else recognize it.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. I was thinking, sometimes I'll have these conversations with God. I'll be like, God, you see what you did?
Oh, my God.
Because I feel like I can say that and then say, you know what I mean. Because I was thinking today about how definitely since the pandemic, I think the pandemic was like really hard. But I mean, it was already hard. It was hard losing my mom. It was hard. It was hard losing my dad first, and then it was hard losing my mom. But I had my brothers, and I felt like somehow I got past the loss of my mom. But to not have either of my brothers, and I think what has, in addition to it being recent with Russ, I had a friend from Buffalo. I wish she could have made it. Like, so many people couldn't make it over here tonight, and so one friend is Cynthia. She is from Buffalo and lives here, and I don't think you two have ever met. And she was on my podcast a couple of episodes ago, and she's had a number of siblings. I want to say 6. I think she's one of 6, but it might be more. And so only her and one other sibling are living. Everyone else has passed. One passed this year, the most recent one, and both of her parents are gone. And so she mentioned she has these 2 aunts in South Carolina. And so she will go visit them, on occasion. And she uses this phrase about,
well, this is happy.
She uses this phrase about being loved up on, like they love up on her. They're older aunts, they're seniors, they're senior citizens. It just, I told her, I was like, I love that. And I felt so envious because I don't feel like loved up on. That's the thing that's, I
that's
think
her.
we're missing. So this is
I
horrible. I
get it.
just cannot believe I'm doing this. So
I get it.
But it really touched me. I mean, like, there's no denying, I mean, I know you love me, but, it's a big thing. Like, I don't like driving 8 hours at this point.
Yeah.
I'll do 8 hours, but I don't want to drive 8 hours.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
and if it's more than that, I feel like, maybe I'll spend the night somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
but I was open to that. I was like, maybe I might do that. Yeah.
And so I'm just saying, I couldn't help but feel the love of you making this trip. But that's just what's been hard. Everything has been hard, but the losses and my brothers, even when they were here, they wasn't loving up on me.
I was kind of thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it.
Yeah, I mean, they were there. They loved me.
Love you.
They
but
loved me. They loved me. They loved me.
They didn't love up on you the way you felt you should be loved up on.
Right, but they were there for me. They had my back.
Yeah.
They had my back.
Yeah.
But you know what
I
I'm
get
saying.
it. I do know what you're saying. And I do want to think, because when I look back on like our childhood, this is kind of funny, Leah. I think maybe it wasn't the easiest to be my friend because I think I was a nice person. But when I think about this, and this is you bringing things back to my attention, when I think about like even Christmases, and I'd be like, Adrianne, I got this, and this. And you'd be like, I got this and this.
And I felt like, I was satisfied with my Christmases.
you were.
I was satisfied. I mean, I got gifts.
Yeah.
I got nice gifts.
Yeah, you did.
But, you got, and then the other thing was, oh my God, most people, most families, they open their gifts on Christmas morning, but you didn't open your gifts until your mom got home around 3:30.
Yeah.
And so I had to wait to get the lowdown, and I knew the lowdown was going to be that you got this abundance of gifts.
Yeah.
So I was like, did you open your gifts yet? Let me just have it. Can I get it over with?
That's true.
Can I get it over with, please? And so
too funny.
Yeah. Oh my God. And maybe if your mom was off, I don't even think you got up that early anyway. I mean, if your mom was off.
Yeah,
Did
which
you?
wasn't too often, but there were times I remember once when I got up like super early. Like I was ready to get up. That'd be like the only day of the year I was ready to get up early. I'd get up like it'd still be dark outside. And it'd be like, nah, you gotta wait a little bit. So, but yeah.
Well, you got the mega gifts, the trampolines and the double bikes.
Yeah.
And then my parents would be, did you tell Tonya what you got for
Oh, no. But for context, I also was the only grandchild. So,
Right.
Not like my parents were rich, but, whatever they couldn't get, she definitely got.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
She got me that trampoline.
Oh, did she?
Mm-hmm.
Did she?
Yeah.
Okay. Newsflash. I didn't know that.
I have a great story. My grandmother spoiling me because remember when clogs were in?
Yeah.
Wow.
You had lots of clogs. Oh my gosh, she had like 10 pairs of clogs.
They had really cute like rainbow.
I remember they're the ones that I remember.
I just had to have them.
Yes, they were cute. I liked them.
I went to the store. They did not have my size. These clogs were too small. But I asked my grandma, "Can I get them anyway?" And she's like, "Yeah." And she, because I figure if you wear pants, you really won't see if my foot's sticking out a little bit. She got me those clogs.
No, I have this famous story about your grandmother because I did not that one. I can tell that one.
I was gonna say, is she going there?
If I can tell that one, I will, with your permission.
No.
But so Leneda, I record. When she records a podcast, occasionally I'll record it for her.
Okay.
And so she was here with the person who was the guest is consultant for, if I'm getting her title right, it's not her complete title, but she's a consultant, for lack of a better word, with Sherwin-Williams. Okay. And so they were so enlightening me to paint just in their conversation. Mm-hmm. Great conversation. But I think I brought this up in the episode on the air or off the air about, my experience with paint was when I was about 12 years old and my best friend's grandmother was moving into her new house and we had to go to the paint store. And it was the most boring time of my life.
And my mother.
Was your mom there?
It was you and my grandmother wasn't there. My mother did everything for my grandmother. Yep, she did everything.
Oh my gosh.
From top to bottom. She was the interior decorator.
Oh my God. Ruby wasn't even there?
No, she didn't do anything.
Oh my gosh.
Nope.
Well,
that was my mother.
She was there in the house ordering somebody around.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember when she moved in that house.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when I think about like my personality and that fighting spirit, think of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's how she was. Now, she was way extreme.
Yeah.
Like, she was so extreme. My grandmother, she used to get, like, these food stamps from her family, from her sister. They were, like, on social services. And so they would, like, give her some food stamps, and she would give them, like, some money. And then one time she tried to have me go to the store with them. I was like, oh, no.
Wait.
No,
she tried to have you go to the store
with them food stamps. I was like, oh, no. No.
Well, I mean, explain that she didn't. She had a good paying job.
Yeah. Like, what? No, that won't be happening. She was a mess.
She was something. Mm-hmm. She called me that girl. Mm-hmm. That girl called you.
Everybody had a name but their name.
That girl called you. But she loved me, though. Mm-hmm. That's just what she called me. Mm-hmm. You know, there was a TV show called That Girl.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Ay.
So, well, as we wind down, I want to move on to the Lord. And you know, when you talk about my evolution, really, it has been through God. You know, it has been through me just trying to know God. Amen. And my and me just wanting to have that connection, which I've always wanted to just be connected and just know God as much as I could. I've always been curious and feeling things beyond my human self. So how would you describe your relationship with God? Such a big general question.
Yeah, that's a big question. Well, I think I would like to start with the background and growing up Catholic. And I think like most kids, your relationship with God or religion is whatever your parents do. And so, both you and I grew up Catholic, and I think I probably only went to church on, Easter, maybe Christmas Eve, but not much, just randomly we would go to church. But I also went to church like when I was little with my grandmother, Church of God in Christ. And so I was exposed to like that experience, which was very different from the Catholic Church. And so I think, first of all, I didn't go to church much because my mother was forced to go to church when she was young. And she said she would never she didn't want to go to church because she was forced to go when she was young. So then I never went to church really. But when I was an adult and I had my oldest daughter, I really felt compelled to have that relationship with God. Not that you have to be in a church to have that relationship, but I felt compelling to be in the house of the Lord. So I started seeking out churches and, eventually landed. And for me, it's always been, okay, I know this is where I should be. So I think my relationship with God, I've always felt like I've always felt blessed, and I always have known that it's because of God. And I just feel like I don't know how you cannot have a relationship with God. It does baffle me with some people, even like the exposure with my kids who choose, their own path. But I just don't know how you get through hard times without knowing God. I don't feel how you don't acknowledge the blessings in your life are because of God. It's nothing because of what you've done. It's because of what, He has provided for you. There's a song and it says, it's something about like, if He's never does another thing for me, He's done enough. And that's how I feel. If I don't get one more blessing from Him, He's done more than I could even have imagined. And so I'm just grateful. Yeah. I'm just grateful for Him watching over me. I'm grateful for the tiniest things as I am the biggest things, right? I'm grateful for health, but I'm also grateful for waking up today, so it's important to me. And there was a season where I wasn't at church because I found a church, and then I felt like that time with that church was up and let me go to another church, but then I took like time off, and I almost feel guilty when I'm not going to church. I feel like that I should be there, that I'm not giving God His time like I should, and I need to do better. If I had a goal like with the Bible, I know I'm not fulfilling it. I don't spend the time that I would like to in the Bible, but it is something that I want to do better with. And were you the one that brought up Ecclesiastes? Yeah, I couldn't even talk about Ecclesiastes. I don't even really know. Yeah, I know more New Testament, but
it's one of the books of the Bible that really speaks to spirituality to me, because it's talking about just the meaning of life or the lack of meaning of life and what really matters. I mean, it's raising the question of what really matters. Yeah, going to what you were saying, you said something like, imagining someone like not having a relationship. That's so fascinating to me because I always felt like, God was a part of my mom. So I was always loving God. But also I always had these extra senses, so I always felt God's spirit. Not every day, all day long, but there's things that would happen that I just feel like a connection to God. And then definitely the more I've gotten into my spirituality, and I know what I was going to say when you mentioned friendships, this was the thing. My friendships changed when I started going to the spiritual discussion group of the book that I study, A Course in Miracles. The discussion group I was going to every Sunday before the pandemic, because we're sitting around, we're talking essentially about God. Everybody's from different faiths and it's personal and you're bonding. So when you said that I didn't like really trust people, which I didn't think of myself that way, but I'm aware that that's true. But the more you start sharing, or I would start sharing, or we would start sharing with each other, vulnerabilities and personal things, and you're not being judged, so you're developing trust. And so that has snowballed into a circle of friends who we're not identical in our walk of faith, but we all have a relationship with God in our own way. And so we have a relationship with each other. But I mean, I've had friends who were atheists or agnostic, and I still consider them spiritual.
Yeah. It's funny because there are some aspects with us that I feel like are role reversals. Like, I feel like you're so open, and like you could meet a new super close friend tomorrow, or I feel like I'm more like, I'm good.
Yes.
I got a good circle. I'm fine with these people.
Yes.
You know, I don't need anybody else.
Yes. Which just happened when I went to Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that you mentioned Church of God in Christ, because I don't think I knew that, because Jackie, who's my friend, one of my friends from Martha's Vineyard who came here, and I did a podcast episode with her, and she grew up in Church of God in Christ. And then she tried to really go in a different direction when she went to college, but she developed her own relationship with God. But yeah, like you mentioned, like being in the Bible, or, like going to church. I like going to church sometimes, but it is hard because my mind is like so much more open now. And so there might be like something that I'm like, that's not where my head is now, that might come up. But where I feel is that I have to give time. My time that I have to give is, and really it's for me, like I feel like the connection's always there, but it's the time in communion, in prayer and meditation. That's where, if I'm not doing that, then I'm not feeling right. I'm agitated, and I'm not hearing God. I'm not hearing the communication.
Yeah. I think the lapse between my old church and my new church. So at my church, I work on the AV team.
Audio visual.
Sam and I do it together. And there was a guy on the team, and he's been with the church a long time. He's one of the elders there. Anyway, he's been on dialysis for kidney for 5.5 years, 3 times a week. Like, that's a long time,
Yes.
And they had just went on vacation, and they got a call. They went to New Jersey. We have a kidney, and if you want, you have to be here like by 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning, something crazy. Anyway, they got back. They got a kidney. It went well. And like, I was just able to see just how the church, and this is not a huge church, but just that church community, how we all came together to make sure that they were good, just the support and the love. And it just made me realize how important it is to have a church family, especially like with me, because I don't really have a big family.
Yeah.
I don't have many people.
Yeah.
And again, like to see it, it was just beautiful, honestly.
Yeah.
To support people, and have everybody support him and make sure they were good and that their kids were good. And, everybody just did their part. I was like, do you need anything? She's like, yeah, can you stop and get me? Rennie needs like some sliders. They're going to release him from the hospital 3 days early. And, I got him some for his feet, some pants to wear, like whatever I could do just to make sure that, they're good, That's what it's about.
That community.
Us as humans taking care of each other,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Can you share when you had a miracle occur or a blessing in your life, that you knew that was totally God and you had nothing to do with it?
It's like, what, I attribute everything to God. It's like funny, people like make notices of what they see, but they don't know the story behind whatever it is. It could be your car. It could be, they don't know the story. I mean, he's really in everything. And I think what stands out for me is one time I took this trip with Felicia. Like, we were like relatively new to AKA. So we were going to one of the Greek events, and I think it was in Philly, driving there. But it was like a really windy road, and you could easily basically fall off and go over the side of a cliff very easily. And I just remember, I don't even know how to put this in words, but I just remember feeling like if it wasn't for God, we would have went off that cliff. That's really how I can explain it. And I can't even tell you now, did we almost go off? Was I going to? Like, I can't remember all the details, but I do know that we were saved from not going off that cliff.
Oh, my gosh.
Really, yeah.
Wow.
It was definitely God.
Wow. So what do you think God calls you to do for yourself in your work and for others in your work?
I think that...
And tell folks what you do.
Well, I work at a college with students, helping them afford college and supporting their time there so that they can successfully graduate. But I think that there's different things, like, I'm in a sorority, so I think that that's very civic minded, and I'm probably in that aspect just called to give back in different pockets. I think at work it is to help young people realize their full potential and get that degree so that they could be more successful in life, but to be a supportive person in whatever form that takes. And, they may realize the support now, they may realize it was helpful later, whatever that looks like. Yeah, I think that in different areas I'm called to do different things.
What do you think God is calling you to do for you in doing all those things?
What he's calling for me
to do for yourself. Yeah. What do you think God calls you to do for yourself in work or in life?
I'm not sure what he calls for me to do for myself. The only thing that really comes to mind is just to be the best version of myself that I can be, whatever that looks like. And, even that sometimes is not easy. And I think probably that's why he put you in my life, so I can see what forgiveness looks like and, do better with that. But yeah, I think just to be the best version of myself that I can be. I have thought of this on myself. I remember times why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's difficult for me to answer sometimes.
I think that what you're doing right now, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. When you retire, you may be doing something else that you're supposed to be doing. But I feel like I, see the investment that you make in your work and your relationship with your students. And I don't think that is typical. And I don't know, I'm not there, so I don't see the student and I don't see you. But I feel like they probably view you in some different way than they would if it was another adult. Do you feel like that, Aaliyah? There's just something, I feel like, you're just, I don't know. I feel like they can trust you and talk to you if necessary. And you're always talking about my student, or I'm having my student over, which is a different person. You do a lot. And I think that God does call you to do that because you have a passion for it. I feel that you have a passion in your work, even if it's a lot. Even if it's a lot, there's an aspect of it that you have a passion for that balances out the a lot part.
Yeah. What's challenging sometimes is that they don't see it, or that you have to have hard conversations that you don't want to have, but it's in their best interest, and they don't always see it like that or receive it like that. But that's my job, and I try to have them delicately when they're the hard conversations, but there's enough of the other side where you're just supportive and happy that they're being successful and having a good experience in college. And those are the bright times. And, so it balances out.
Yeah. Well, Tonya, I have to twist your arm sometimes. I have to twist her arm to get on here, but you did it again. Tanya's always like, well, what are we going to talk about?
Yes. But I do want to say before we conclude that, I'm super proud of you and your podcast. I don't think I've seen you be so just into something as much as you are, into this. You've had other passions, of course, but I really see you thriving, and I just see how much you enjoy it and how important it is to you. So I do want to say I'm really proud of you, and you even come so far with it, and you're always going to be good at something that I think you enjoy. I think that's with everybody. If you really enjoy it, you're going to be great at it. So
yeah, thank you. You definitely have to have a passion for it, because it's a grind, but it's a grind that you love it. You can love something and it still be a grind, but you're like, I was telling Aaliyah that I was trying to do this clip last night and to put on a short on YouTube, and it needed to be vertical, but it was horizontal. So I was trying to trick it in some way to make it vertical, but it wasn't working. So I spent 2 hours. So from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., I'm up here trying to make this thing work. And then I realized I have an app that will fix this.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And I was like, I just wasted 2 hours of my life in the middle of the night. But
That's God saying, you just need to be asleep right now. That's
because there were so many times when I was messing up and I was like, this is when you're supposed to put it down. You're supposed to put it down. Just a few more minutes. Just a few more minutes.
Yeah. I was in church one day and our pastor ministered on, it was such like a simple message, but he was just talking about the importance of sleep. How people don't really value it and see like that God invented this, but it's the things that happen when you're asleep and the healing that takes place when you're asleep and, the amount of sleep you should get. And it was just such a simple but important message,
Yeah. It's so true. I used to see that. I used to see my mom heal in her final months. She would be really weak and I would sleep next to her and I would see how hard her heart was working. I could see how hard her heart was beating. And then as the hours were on, she'd calm down, her heart would calm down, and the next morning she'd be a lot better. I used to see that with my own eyes. So true.
Aaliyah, one time when her mom's health was declining and she was like, my mom's not really making sense, and so I called and talked to her mom. And I was like, hi, Mrs. Murchison. When I tell you she made the most perfect sense of everything I was like, I was even throwing in stuff like, well, let me see if she's going to answer this, and I was like, are we talking about the same person? Like, this is odd.
Well, what was probably going on is she probably had a UTI. That's probably what was happening.
Yeah.
But that stuff would happen sometimes. That stuff would happen. I used to mess with my mom while she was sleeping. When she I used to I don't know, I get a kick out of messing with people while they're asleep. Me too. I used to mess with her when she was sleeping. And one time she was having this dream and she started talking in her sleep. This is in the last year. And she was talking about somebody as if it was really real, because sometimes she would reflect on real stuff out loud, right? And so this was a guy that she was involved with some years ago, it was a secret. And she was talking to somebody and she was like, yeah, he was wealthy. He was like a Kennedy. He wasn't a Kennedy, but he was wealthy like the Kennedys. And I loved him. And she was I just was sitting there looking at her I just wanted her to just keep talking. Yeah, girl. And this, and I could have married him and just, it was so good. It was like popcorn good,
Wow. Cheese popcorn. Caramel popcorn.
Well, thank you, Tonya. I love you so much.
I'm glad we could share this with Aaliyah being here.
Me too.
Get a little bit insight into our background.
Thank you.
De nada.
Thank you for joining us. You can listen to all Let's Start Healing episodes on most platforms. That includes YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Let me know what you think of the episode. Please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on and share Let's Start Healing with at least one person. Until next time, let's start healing.